Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the 507 podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Cristal Cardiel. Today, I'm going to be talking about a hot topic that will resonate with many of us who are bilingual and celebrate language diversity. Today's topic is translanguaging. If this is the first time you've heard this word, I assure you that translanguaging is not out of this world. In today's show, I'll be talking about the meaning of translanguaging and how it's a common practice amongst bilingual speakers and even in pop culture. I also want to highlight the importance of implementing translanguaging in school curriculum to support the academic achievement of emerging bilingual students. Let's get into it. Dr. Ofelia Garcia, who is internationally known for her work on bilingual education and multilingualism, defines translanguaging as the deployment of a speaker's full linguistic repertoire without regard for watchful adherence to the socially and politically defined boundaries of named languages. To make sense of and communicate information, bilingual speakers activate and use all of their linguistic foundations and resources without seeing one language different from the other. They actively use both in their thinking process in order to engage in dialogue or understand new information. I'll share my personal experience. As a native Spanish speaker and growing up in a predominantly Spanish-speaking household, it was hard to navigate institutions where English was the primary language. At times, I felt defeated by not being proficient in English, but many other times, I felt empowered for knowing two languages. Growing up, I engaged in translanguaging to help my mother, who does not know English, pay utility bills, complete government and medical documents. As a child, I had to tap into my Spanish foundations to understand and translate many of these forms. I remember reading the information over and over out loud to myself, all while trying to connect some of the words to Spanish words I already knew. My mind was actively using both my Spanish and English language in order to make sense of the forms, but to also effectively communicate the information to my mother in a way she understood. To this day, I am my mother's translator. My English and Spanish language have helped me improve my communication with her and continue to help her with translating. My story is not unique to me as a bilingual speaker. Millions of people who speak multiple languages use translanguaging as a day-to-day practice to process and communicate information, but also build relationships and connections. We see this more and more in pop culture. Translanguaging is used in movies, TV shows, and in many songs by artists like Bad Bunny and BTS to express emotions and connect with their audience. The practice of translanguaging is a universal practice amongst bilingual and multilingual speakers. So why is translanguaging not a common practice in school curriculum in the US? Growing up as a bilingual student, I struggled to understand school concepts because I wasn't given the opportunity to connect my learning with my linguistic and cultural identity. However, it's important for individuals to nurture their linguistic foundations and recognize them as a strength and value in their learning. Incorporating translanguaging classroom practices allows emerging bilingual students to become confident and engage in their learning. Through the practice of translanguaging, bilingual speakers can express and communicate what's authentic to them, but also support and help them navigate the world around them. There are a few schools in the U.S. who are pioneering the practice and have implemented translanguaging in their school curriculum. De los Rios and Seltzer explains that translanguaging pedagogy puts students' language practices at the center and makes space for students to draw on their fluid linguistic and cultural resources at all times. Oftentimes, emergent bilingual students fall behind in school because they're not given the opportunity to use their full linguistic repertoire in their learning process. However, translanguaging classroom practices allow students to use all of their cultural practices, funds of knowledge, and linguistic foundations to successfully make sense of their learning and achieve academically. Allowing bilingual students to use translanguaging to engage in a lesson or make sense of the content legitimizes students' lived experiences. School should be a place where students feel safe to be themselves and where their diverse backgrounds are valued, recognized, and a part of their learning, which is why it's important to adapt translanguaging pedagogy in school curriculum. I hope you all enjoyed and learned something from today's show. Thank you all.